So after this, YouTube will pop up. Just verify that it's muted, and then you can go back to Zoom and start the meeting. There you go.
Are we live?
We are live.
Good evening. This is John Campbell with the Open Space Committee. This open meeting of Northborough Open Space Committee is being conducted remotely, consistent with Governor Baker's executive order of March 12, 2020, due to the current state of emergency in the Commonwealth due to the outbreak of the COVID-19 virus. In order to mitigate the transmission of the virus, the town of Northborough has been advised and directed by the Commonwealth to suspend public gatherings. And as such, the governor's order suspends the requirement of the open meeting law to have all meetings in a publicly accessible physical location. All members of the Northborough Open Space Committee are allowed and encouraged to participate remotely. This order allows Northborough Open Space Committee to meet entirely remotely so long as reasonable public access is afforded so that the public can follow along with the deliberations of the meeting. The public is encouraged to follow along using the posted agenda unless otherwise noted. Members of the public who wish to view on the live stream of this meeting may do so by going to Northborough Remote Meetings on YouTube. And there's also a link on the agenda on the town website. Ensuring public access does not ensure public participation unless such participation is required by law. This meeting will not feature public comment. So having said that, we need a roll call of all members and stating that you're present in the affirmative. So I am going to attempt that. 1 second here. Find what I do with my pen. Here it is. Take a look at. Okay, Brian Belfer.
Brian Belfer, present.
Thank you again. I appreciate you repeating your name. Anthony Zidon.
Here.
Greg Young.
Greg Young is present.
Thank you. Dan Clark.
Clark, present.
Ashley Davies.
Ashley Davies, present.
Hi, Ashley.
Hi.
Paul Tagliaferri.
Paul Tagliaferri is here.
Thank you, Paul. And we also have Allie Lane from Rec with us. Hi, Allie.
Guys. Hi.
And we have Sarah Adams from Central Mass Planning. Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
Great to see you again virtually.
Been a while. Good evening, everyone.
Okay, great. Hold on. I think I got some more rules to read here. Okay, I guess just, I think most of this is going to be Sarah presenting what she's learned on the survey, what's prepared so far, and spinning us back to the last discussion on goals. I would say that after each portion of what you're going to say, Sarah, or what anyone else comments on, maybe just a brief pause in case someone else wants to cue in. I don't think I need to call on individuals per se, but you can certainly wave your hand or something if you think I'm ignoring you, which is entirely possible. If you have any background noise or you're concerned about it, please mute your mic. I will acknowledge you typically if you wish to speak or if you haven't already. And when we vote, if we vote, we'll be doing it by a roll call. Should anyone have any technical difficulties, lose your signal or whatever, I will pause the meeting briefly, see if you click back on. And if not, we'll make a note in the minutes that you disappeared. If you're verbal only, if for some reason your screen goes dead, then speak up and let us know that. I'm going to refer to the agenda, which I did print and I did read, but I did not memorize.
John, I will need to step away for a couple moments around 7:30, but I'll be back.
Feel free. Anyone else that has that issue? I know Greg wanted to try to wrap up by 8. Isn't that right, Greg?
Yeah, 8 or a few minutes after I got on the commitment, so I've got to drop right around then.
Sure thing. Can I suggest that we bring the minutes up now, because a review of the minutes might refresh people's memory on what we did since it was so long ago, and any questions that come up regarding the minutes. Did anyone have any comments on the minutes at all? Hearing none, I'm going to make one myself. One note was that with regard to the historic inventory, Leslie had offered to bring an update from the Historic District Commission. I did reach out to Norm Corbin in that regard, and for any other thing regarding historic information that we needed to update. Norm indicated he had sent some things to Mia. Is that correct, Mia? And is there anything still open there?
Norm did send me the inventory.
Great. But that's not holding us up with regard to our progress tonight, would it be? No?
No.
Very good. Okay, without any other questions on the minutes, and if not, could I ask for a motion to approve them?
Did you want to make any change to that note? Historic and scenic inventory?
The note in the minutes?
Yeah.
I do not need to make any change to the note in the minutes.
Okay.
I just was using it as a reminder.
Okay.
I'll make a motion to accept the Open Space Committee meeting minutes of January 27th.
Second,
Who made the second?
Brian Belfer, second the motion.
Thank you. So Greg Young made the motion, Brian Belford made the second. Without further questions, I'll ask for a roll call vote. Brian?
I vote to approve these minutes as presented.
Very good. Greg?
Aye.
Ashley?
I was not there, so I'll abstain.
Very well. Dan?
Approve.
Anthony?
Aye.
Paul?
Aye. Aye.
And I believe that's all members present, and I vote to approve as well. So that's unanimous to approve the minutes. Thank you. Okay. So I guess I would like to offer the floor to Sarah to get us back to remember each other and what we last did. And also I printed, and others may have linked online to your link that you sent for the draft of the community forum, which looks excellent. So go ahead, Sarah.
Great. First, please definitely let me know if you're having a hard time hearing me. I don't always have the best connectivity, so let me know if I'm spotty. So I'll start by going over the public survey efforts, and that's much more comprehensively pulled together in the document that I had sent around, so I won't go into exhaustive detail, but I'll just highlight a couple of items. The survey was open for about 2 months, from January 21st through March 20th. We got 15 hard copies and 495 surveys were received in total, so that's a pretty good number. Just looking at the demographics, Northborough's demographics are, just as a frame of reference, under 15 is 21% of your population, 15 to 44 is 33%, 45 to 64 is 33%, and 65 plus is 13%. So the survey demographics didn't completely line up with that, most notably in the under 15 demographic. We only received 1.4% of the survey is from 11 to 18-year-olds. So if we were going to do some more targeted outreach, that would be my recommendation, would be to shoot for youth. About 45% of the respondents were aged 19 to 45, with another 43% aged 46 to 65. And about 11% of the respondents were 65 plus. So that's actually really good because that's pretty consistent with what the demographics of the town are. And that can be a hard demographic to reach. So I think we did well in that age cohort. 56% of respondents agreed that Northborough is adequately served by their current open space and rec facilities. So that's a pretty good number. There were a number of facilities that the majority of respondents indicated they didn't know about. So that's definitely something to flag and be aware of. Some of these included Indian Meadows Golf Club, which is private, so that's not too surprising. Little Chauncey Boat Ramp, Edmund Hill Woods, Calstrom 2 Trail, Watson Park at Bartlett Pond, the Westboro Wildlife Management Area, Cold Harbor Trails, Yellock and Suosco, Starrett Brook Trails, and Shunder Conservation Area and Trails were some that people didn't know about. According to the survey, most residents were satisfied with places for children and youth to play, with places for adults and seniors, more so than for places for adults and seniors. But there was general satisfaction with the condition of the recreation facilities for all ages. Residents over 50 are most interested in walking groups, yoga and Tai Chi, and health and wellness programs. The highest number of respondents, which was about 93%, indicated that they or their families participate in informal recreation, so walking, hiking, skateboarding, nothing organized. But nearly 60% said that they participate or their family participates in school-sponsored activities or team sports.
Sarah, pardon me a moment.
Yep.
Me, I just wanted to know, can you minimize the agenda? Is that dominant on the screen of everyone else, or? Is there any way to screen share the forum draft that she's reviewing instead? If anyone was watching live, that might be interesting.
John, I think you have the ability to, there's a pull down on top of that you can reduce the size of that screen that Mia is sharing, I believe.
Just like any other window. I don't see it.
So I'm sharing Sarah's forum
It's the cover
presentation.
page right now. Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Did you want me to go to a certain page?
Sure, she's on, she was on page, or I should say question 3, I think you were, maybe going on to 4.
Yeah, I'm actually sorry. I have to admit I lost my video, so I'm only on the phone right now, so I can't actually see the presentation.
That's fine, but you're looking at it, right?
So yeah, I actually had just pulled out a couple of highlights, and I was actually on my last one. So if it makes sense for the folks who are watching at home, if Mia or whoever is driving wants to sort of flip through the presentation, we could just show some of those numbers. But the last thing that I really wanted to note is that about 54% of respondents said that they would support an increased Community Preservation Act surcharge to implement any of the objectives that they strongly supported. So that is an encouraging number. And that was the last piece that I really pulled out just to highlight for these purposes. But that draft can certainly be made available and will be presented whenever we do have a forum in whatever form that takes. So I guess at this point, I do have the presentation in front of me. If anyone has any questions about the survey or what they're seeing on the screen, I can answer those.
I thought it was interesting, the result of question 2, that 40% of respondents didn't know about several prominent facilities. I don't know what that says. Does it mean possibly newer residents took the survey, which is a good thing?
John, can I just comment to that?
Yes.
Okay. A lot of that, the survey was sent out through my email system, and I know that a lot of the demographics between 19 and 45 were through there. And I would say that a lot of them with the younger kids are not aware of certain places in town unless there's a playground, you know what I mean, where it's kid focused. So when
Like
you're talking
trails,
about
yeah.
Shunder's property, you're talking about Edmund Hill, you know, Watson Park, they're not aware of that. And I've talked to people many times. They come into our office thinking that we run the trails a lot of the time. So we'll talk to them about different areas in town and they've never heard of them. So again, I think a lot of it, when you have such a family oriented, a lot of them aren't exploring those different areas. If you go to Kearney Park and ask them to fill it out, they probably know all the trails and the parks and the areas to take their dogs. But I think it's just different people from the side, you know, from town. I had a lot of the seniors fill out the physical form from pickleball. So that's probably where you got a lot of those. And their whole concentrate, they don't know any of these trails, but they just want pickleball somewhere. So I think a lot of it was focused because I was sending it to certain people.
Does anyone draw a conclusion about what we might add to a goal and an action then, from what you just told me?
Yes. I think something we could do along the lines is highlight a certain area in town every month. And we could do it through the rec department, through the police department, you know, through all the Facebooks, through the emails. And maybe each month, each place is highlighted and we go through a year. We could even look at the town annual warrant because they do a calendar and we might be able to sync with them where each month a different place in town is, you know, kind of sent out so that everybody can know about it and all the questions about it are answered. That would just be an idea on my part.
And speaking from your part, do you mean the recreation news or website, or are we talking the town website, or both?
Both. I think we could kind of make it a press, or, you know, like a year-long press release where you have, you know, Edmund Hill would be 1 month. And, you know, I would promote, you know, every week when I send an email out, I could send something, you know, some information about it or what's new or what's going on. But the police station and the town clerk, they all have Facebook pages where they can kind of send things out about Edmund Hill that month. You know what I mean? And kind of make it just different press each month on a different area throughout the whole town.
Yeah, I think that's great. I mean, I think what you said is valid. The trails and things connected to the trails are such a great asset in Northborough.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's part of what we're all here to do is not only just get this plan out, but to use it as a vehicle to learn about how we can get people to know about them and care for them and all those things that come with it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, Allie. And I also agree with the feedback about the people who are taking the survey, because if you look at the facilities that most of the respondents said they were frequenting, they were the parks that have playgrounds. It was Ellsworth McAfee, it was Assabet Park, Casey Field, Kearney Park, and Memorial Field. So definitely much more recreational than open space or passive recreation. They were absolutely facilities that parents who have kids in town or rec league sports might be frequenting.
I just think that that's the people that are responding. They're the ones that want to be involved. So, you know, the ones with the kids, and they're the ones that are filling out these surveys for us. So I think that's primarily where you're getting that information from.
Hey, John, you know, one area that I've always thought has been really untapped, I don't know if it's really viable given our current COVID situation for the next several months, whatever, is the high school kids. I mean, they used to have marketing groups at the high school, and they had senior projects. And I always thought that getting one or two of those kids to help work some of this marketing of anything would be a good idea. But again, given the current environment, that might not be viable.
Yeah.
Well, we're talking about the long term here, so yeah. And by the way, promoting in just the same way Ali spoke, promoting our facilities in the high school itself. I mean,
Sure. Yep.
I'm not saying that they're all going to go do trail walking, but they might. And just anything that gets the word out about our assets benefits the town as a whole. So that's good too.
Yeah, I completely agree. And we can definitely speak more about this when we talk about what we might want to do for the forum. But I think that involving the high schoolers or involving even younger kids in this process would be a really great targeted outreach effort, because it would, make a lot of folks that maybe aren't aware more aware of facilities that they're not already frequenting. And it would also get some of that feedback from the 21% of the under 15 population that we haven't managed to tap into yet.
What about,
I was just going to say, one avenue we can do too is I have 32 high school college employees that I did not think to, I could send the survey to them and ask them to fill that out. And that might be a good avenue as well.
I don't know if anybody's seen what the Historical Society's been doing with highlighting a different historical property in town and putting some narrative, posting something on Facebook and then putting some narrative about the history of that. And they've been feeding that out on pretty much a daily basis. And it seems a lot of people, a lot of good feedback from that. I don't know if that could be something we could kind of pursue.
Yep.
Okay, so if there are not any other questions about the survey, should we discuss the goals and start thinking about objectives?
Absolutely. But just to be sure, I didn't cut you short, Sarah, for any more of your bullet points, did I?
Oh no, those were the ones that I pulled out to highlight, but the entire survey is summarized in that document that I sent around. And if anyone wants the raw SurveyMonkey results, I also have that information. Actually, that's provided as an appendix on the draft plan. So if anyone is really interested in looking at that at a really granular level, that information is a part of the draft plan as well. So if there are any questions that come up while you're reviewing that information, please feel free to reach out.
Very good. I was just scanning the other question results in case there were any other good talking points. And if anyone else has one, please speak up.
John, it's Dan Clark. I did have a question on the presentation. If you scroll down to question 11, there are 2 slides for question 11. I wasn't quite sure how to interpret those results. Seems like the same question.
Yeah, that's a great question. So thank you for flagging that. So the reason that I broke this out this way is it was only one question. It was which types of facilities would you most like to see in town? So I broke it out into the facilities that people seemed really interested in and the ones that people did not seem particularly interested in. So folks could rank these from very interested to I really don't want this, essentially. So what you see on that first slide is the facilities that people said, I'm very interested in this or I'm interested in this. And on that second slide for question 11 are the ones that people really responded, I am not interested in these. So for example, a lot of respondents said that they were the least interested in horseback riding trails. So I just felt that that was worth breaking them out separately to show what people said they were very interested in compared to what people said they were very much not interested in.
Sarah, it's kind of obvious, but how is the data relate to the chart? So for instance, the first page, sidewalks and walking routes is the tallest bar. That's the highest percentage of people that said it was Very important. I forget how the question read.
So
The choices.
the first slide, so the one where you see sidewalks and walking routes, this is just respondents that said they were the most interested in these items. So if we had 495 respondents, these are the number of those 495 that said that these items were their number one most interested. This is what they would like to see the most in town. So I have the numbers for these in the SurveyMonkey. The bar chart just kind of shows them respective to each other. And I don't know the numbers off the top of my head, but we do have that data if we wanted to drill that down a little bit more.
Very well. As I said, it was obvious. I just wanted to make sure I was seeing it right. And I'm not surprised at the answers in the first ones anyway. Maybe number 3, swimming pool.
We get requests for swimming pool all the time.
Particularly now, I bet.
I bet if people took the survey now instead of in March, that would be even higher. Okay, so I think Mia sent around the 6 draft goals that we had come up with last time. I can quickly read through those, but I'm not sure if this group wants to discuss objectives tonight or if that's something that we really want to leave up to the public forum informing a little bit more. But before we dive into that discussion, I did just kind of want to clarify the difference between a goal, an objective, and an action, because we consistently find that there's some confusion about those items when we write these plans. So a goal is a desired condition of well-being. So that's what we came up with the last time we met. An objective is the overarching intent focused on addressing the identified goal. And then the action, which will be the most granular step that we'll come up with, is a defined step to fulfill the objective. So that's probably pretty self-explanatory, but I just wanted to clarify that before we really start talking about objectives. So I guess I'd be interested in hearing from this group if we as a committee want to start talking about objectives, or if we want to wait to hear from the public a little bit to define those.
I'm going to comment first and then let others join in. I'd like to have the question revert back to timeline of things. We're obviously in a different time, so I have no idea when we would be able to have a public forum, and therefore are we realistically another year away from finishing this plan if we did wait for that, or are we going to have to take an alternate path to get public input, like an online invitation? I don't know how well that would work.
Yeah, so maybe it makes sense to talk about the public forum before we really talk goals and objectives, because that's definitely a concern. And I think if this committee is really, really set on having an in-person forum, we might be a ways off from that. So I guess I'd be interested to hear your comfort level with doing something online, or what some towns have been doing, and which I think would be kind of interesting, is doing an outdoor forum at one of your open space or rec properties. That way people can social distance. It's a little bit more open air. We could do something with like poster boards as opposed to a more traditional presentation, or we could pre-record something with that forum presentation. So there are definitely options. It's really up to this committee with what they're comfortable with and what you think the people of Northborough would participate in.
The outdoor option is really interesting. What do other members think?
I think it's probably preferable to the, in my view anyway, it's preferable to the Zoom option, I think, on that side. Question I have is to, what type of turnout would you expect at an outdoor option? I mean, how many people would you expect to turn out?
I will definitely turn that question back to you folks because you're much more familiar with the town and what turnout might be for, an in-person meeting at town hall. Because I think the people that were going to come to the forum if we were holding it at town hall or at the library are probably the same people that are going to come to this forum no matter how we hold it.
I'm not so sure about that, Sarah. That's why it intrigued me. Who knows? I mean, we may only get a dozen people or 20 people. I don't know that that's necessarily bad if those people are interested in giving feedback, but you may get a little bit of a different set of people than would be inclined to go sit in Algonquin Auditorium or any other big forum. I mean, we won't have enough people to command the football field, but we could hold it at Ellsworth Park, for instance, and you might get a mixture. You might get more young people. You might get some families. Something on a, that was on a, most likely probably have to be a weekday. I mean, a Saturday morning, perhaps.
Yeah, and that's actually a good point too, is that if we hold it on a weekend outdoors at a park, you might kind of get some walk-ins that you wouldn't normally get at a public forum, which could be actually an added benefit to having to be creative like that.
Well, if you do it on a Saturday morning or a weekend morning, I mean, one thing, you can give stuff away and get more people in. But what you could do, you could maybe get some, coffee or donut contributions or donation or something and advertise it a bit. Might help.
Timing would probably need to be in the fall, like in September, if that's not too late, but
yep,
get more people around, right, Greg?
Yeah, definitely. But much, better chance of getting out. Speaking of that, what about an Apple Fest connection, or is that not worth pursuing or not feasible?
No, it is.
Well, Apple Fest, we're not having parade, we're not having a street fair, we're not having fireworks. So there's not going to be a large gathering at all for Apple Fest this year. I think they're going to do very small events like the Apple Pie Cafe, but everything else has been canceled.
But
all the big events.
To Greg's point, to say theoretically, we were to list the open forum as Apple Fest Saturday, and it gets a little more publicity as being in the Apple Fest activities, and we find a place with enough space, again, like Ellsworth, would we be permitted to pull that off, or would there be pushback from town, do you think, Mia?
With enough planning, if you were planning for September, I think we could pull it off.
Just remember that if we do have sports, they start at 8 a.m. on Saturday and run the whole day. So if you're looking at an open field, a Saturday morning probably will not work. We have, I just don't know if the sports are going to run. So I can't say, you know what I mean? Everything's so far up in the air right now.
I'd want the pavilion alley. I'd want the pavilion, so we don't need a rain date.
It would just be the issue with parking, because you can book the pavilion, but if you have 5 soccer games going on, no one's going to be able to come.
Yep.
So we'd have to get creative. I don't want to say no, because the likelihood of us having sports at the beginning of September is very slim. So if you wanted to do something, the weekend after Labor Day, you'd probably have an excellent chance of doing that. I know that high school sports has been delayed till September 14th. So I'm assuming that the youth sports might follow that schedule.
When's Apple Fest,
The 3rd weekend in September.
Okay, so this would be the 2nd weekend in September after Labor Day.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I know that Apple Fest, there is soccer all day during Apple Fest, because it's always gone against, you know what I mean? We've always had issues with the parade and things like that, and people having to go to soccer, baseball, and football.
Mm-hmm.
So September 19, 20?
Yes.
Well, there's something
Let's hope,
cool
you know,
about an open space plan forum being held outside. So I kind of like the idea, even if we had a low turnout, we fulfill the obligation and
Yeah.
you might be surprised.
Actually, John, I think a good idea for a location might be the middle school because they have a lot of outdoor space, but they also have, you would have the accessibility to get into the building for bathrooms. And there's plenty of parking, and we don't have any events on Saturday mornings there.
Well, Ally, I do like the idea of the soccer field using the what is that, the cupola there, because you're going to have a lot of people there already.
That's true.
So there you go. I mean, a couple of hundred, I guess. You get a little bit of walk-in, some people wandering up. Yeah.
Nope, I agree. I mean, if we're not looking at a huge turnout, if we're not thinking we're going to have 100 people come, then the pavilion would definitely be a good area.
So I do like the idea of trying to get people out into the field. I'll be honest, given our track record of attracting people to some of our events, I do wonder if maybe a Zoom or online thing would get a broader audience. I think maybe people more inclined to check in from home. So I don't know if we're trying to attract a wider audience, or we're just trying to, I mean, the diehard people I think would show up, but I don't know, just a thought. We haven't had a lot of luck in the past getting much participation, so.
Why couldn't you do both?
Yeah, I wanted to chime in and say that the option that we've found in our outreach activities that's working the best is sort of a hybrid option, where maybe it's not live, but I could record something where I go through those survey results and talk about the sort of input that we're looking for. And that's available for folks to watch on their own time. So they don't need to block out a specific time to watch something live. And then they're able to submit feedback if they're so inclined, even if they can't go to the in-person option. So that's definitely something that we could do. And then that also gives us the opportunity to not have to give a really formal presentation at the actual forum outdoors, because that could be challenging. So we could set it up so there's more sort of activity based, it's a little bit more casual, and we're not running through a PowerPoint like we might be if we were doing something in like the library.
I think we should offer it on Zoom, even if we do it outside. We could bring a screen and project and, you know, just allow people the opportunity to participate because there are still people who aren't coming out, especially vulnerable populations and the elderly.
I tend to agree with that sentiment. I think you have a really challenging time to get attendance outside at this point and interest, and you're probably likely to get a lot more people to sign into a Zoom or something like that to participate. Not to say you don't do something in person, but I just think it's the odds of getting enough people there to make a difference or get real feedback is probably not going to happen.
I think I would agree with that as well. I think getting people to come outside, given the circumstances around COVID, would be very difficult with or without sports. I think the idea of a 5 or 10 minute pre-recorded presentation by Sarah is a great idea. It's something that's accessible to anyone. You can watch that at any time for people to catch up and see the presentation and then provide feedback, whether it's through mail, whether we have a Zoom call today, or a Zoom call with people to provide comments. But you know, I think online is where things are should be pointed towards.
We could also host two. We could host a Saturday morning in person and then a, you know, Tuesday evening Zoom.
Yeah, and I
like that.
Justin, oh, sorry.
You go ahead.
I was just going to say, I like the suggestion that was just made about maybe doing a pre-recorded presentation, but then hosting maybe like an office hours, like a live Q&A where people could drop in and say, oh, I looked over these materials and I was just wondering X, Y, and Z. And then there's still an interactive option, but people are still, it's a little more flexible than having to watch a presentation live and then stay on for that public forum session. So that might be a way that we could structure it, and give people the opportunity to provide their feedback live and get their questions answered without having to go to an event.
So what would people think of the idea then? I mean, I'm not sure we're going to meet in August, so I'm in favor of moving actions forward tonight as much as we can. What would people feel about the idea of what Sarah just said, pre-recorded presentation, and scheduling an online or Zoom or, you know, an open forum online. But in addition, using the Applefest weekend as a place to have another scheduled forum open discussion. And we can see, we may get a broader mix that way of some outside, some inside. And to Greg's point, if it's at the pavilion and okay, it's crowded, but there's a lot of people there already, that might be a good idea. And there's just something about that weekend that people might be looking for. What's happening, what's not happening, whether sports are taking place or not. Throwing it out there.
John, I think the more ways you approach it, the better chance, the more fish you're going to catch, right? So, you know, you take the Zoom approach, you're going to get a certain segment. You take the online meeting approach, you're going to get another segment. Then you take the drop-in approach, you might get a third segment. So, more lines in the water. That's all it is, right?
Yeah, I agree.
Sounds good to me.
So if we have these events in September as a goal, is that suitable to keep on some kind of pace, Sarah?
Yeah, and for everyone's reference, we did extend our contract. So as long as we wrap this plan up by the end of 2021, or by 2020 rather, I think our contract is through December 31st. And I think we could definitely do that if we hold our forum in September. That gives us some time to roll any recommendations in and finalize that plan to get it to DCR.
Good to hear. In general, I could foresee scheduling a meeting of our committee in October where we would digest what we've learned from the forums, and that might be enough to bring it home for you by November and December. Does that sound doable?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And as I mentioned really briefly in the email I sent out before this meeting, there are a number of sections of the plan that are not contingent upon getting that public participation. So if this committee wanted to start reviewing the draft, I think the first 4 or 5 sections are really kind of the background information. And then we get a little bit more into the goals and the objectives and the survey results and the 7-year action plan in the last few chapters. So we could also front load a little bit of that review if people are looking for something to do while they're on the beach, I guess. You wanted to read a few chapters.
So Sarah, you shared the a PDF. Would you be willing to share a Word version? It's just a little easier to make comments and stuff in Word than PDF.
Yes, I can absolutely do that. The only thing is it's not going to look nearly as pretty. The maps and all of the slip sheets will be missing, but I can provide that narrative in a Word doc.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
What's the format, Sarah, of the final plan? Is it PowerPoint, for instance, or is it some other program?
It's just a PDF.
Okay. Using Adobe to create the presentation, you mean?
For the most part, we pulled everything together in Word. It's just assembling everything in Adobe so that we can include those GIS maps and any kind of flip sheets. So everything's pretty much been done in Word. There's nothing too crazy going on with it. And then it's just PDFs to make it a cohesive document.
I understand. Good, that's a great idea.
I'd just like to summarize the forum that we had discussed. So we are asking Sarah to create a 5 to 10 minute pre-recorded presentation. And then we would be holding 2 events, a Zoom event and an outdoor event. And did we say that it would be for Applefest weekend?
I think we said that was a good goal weekend, otherwise of the one before.
Okay.
If there's pros and cons on that. I mean, I wasn't even sure Applefest was going to be allowed. It's certainly regardless of what's restricted, it's a time in town when people definitely do think about the community, maybe read things, and if our whatever we're going to call it, if our forum, if our event is listed in the calendar and just gets other publicity that way, if the Applefest promoters are willing, then that seems like it would be an easy extra set of promotion.
And did you want the evening forum to be either before or after the outdoor forum? Or does it matter, the Zoom meeting?
Maybe it doesn't matter, but I'll take comment on that.
More than one, John. I mean, if it's a canned presentation, you could do more than one Zoom meeting if that made sense. Have one in September, have one in October.
2 different nights of the week.
Yep.
So if it's recorded, can you just make it available, or you're thinking this presentation will be getting feedback in real time from people?
So my preference would be to make it available, to provide a publicly available link on the town website, on the rec website, on the Facebook pages. But then not everyone will do their homework. So we would also probably want to play that presentation before the Q&A session. So I think it's a little of each.
Okay, got it.
In other words, your presentation is the opening of the Zoom, and then committee members are available with public participation.
Okay, I'm following now.
And so, Sarah, we have contracted you for 1 public forum. Is that correct?
That is correct. So I was just going to chime in. If you all want to run point on doing as many of these Zoom Q&A sessions as you'd like, that's completely fine. But I'm just trying to be conscious of the budget. And we have 1 public forum in the budget, which all of our budgets are getting stretched pretty thin with the current situation that we're in, because we're having to do a lot of things via Zoom, which is more work in a lot of ways. So we're being pretty flexible, but I think it would be tough for us to do an in-person forum and then offer several of these Zoom forums with the budget that we have remaining, if I'm being honest.
Sarah, you're putting a presentation together and narrating it, I guess. Does that qualify as your 1 presentation? Or
no, I can definitely record that presentation and make it available. And if that's just getting played up front, I don't really even need to be there to facilitate a Q&A if the committee wanted to take that on. And I'm totally comfortable with that. If you all are more comfortable with having more than 1 of these Zoom forums, I think we can host an indefinite amount of them. I'm just not sure that I'd be able to attend all of them.
Understood. And
I can staff them. That's fine. And I'll run them at different, I'll run them in the morning, afternoon, and evening, and probably 2 different evenings.
Yeah, and that's, DC would love to see that. So I think that's a really great idea. If we can offer something at a bunch of different times to make it accessible for working parents, for people that work unconventional hours, that's the sort of thing that they really like to see in the public outreach section.
John,
Yes.
is it okay if I speak for a minute?
Yes, ma'am.
Going back to what Dan had said too, I think with, you know, going through the master plan and all, you know, you guys have a lot of experience with kind of what you think the public reaction is going to be too. So I don't know if you necessarily need to have multiple Zoom meetings, only because I think the people that want to have say are going to make it in their schedule to do whatever meeting you're having. Do you know what I'm saying? So I don't know if you necessarily need to plan all these, you know, yes, show the presentation, get people, but I think you really only need to have one open meeting where people can discuss things, you know what I mean? Because I think like I said, what Dan said before is, you know, you guys have a good idea through doing it last time that, you know, it wasn't a huge, I just don't know that you need to have all these multiple meetings, but that's just my opinion. You guys are more than welcome to have as many as you want. I just think that if you kind of contain it all, you'll get, you know, people that want to be involved will make it so that they can be involved.
It's a good point. And Dan's right. We had 0 attendees, so.
I just don't want you guys as a committee booking yourselves for all of these times and you have one person each time or 3 people each time, when if you're doing just one, you'll get 12 people to, you know what I mean, to make the time if they really want to commit to asking you questions about this.
You are not wrong.
I'm all about efficiency.
Right. I mean, I'm not trying to overcommit us either. There was just something intriguing about the possibility of, you know, walk by notice. We'd have to have a booth set up, if you will. I don't know that it'd be one thing if it was the street fair, but it's not. So
right.
Probably have to keep that in mind while we're doing this. Well,
Are we still considering an outdoor event?
there was just one person promoting killing it, I think so.
I feel like it's just so unlikely that we'll be able to do anything in person in the fall with the predictions.
As someone who runs outdoor events and things going on, there's just so many people that do not want to be, you know, to come to these group things. And I don't necessarily know as a town if we should be promoting that activity, to be honest with you. I know that the town administrator has told the staff that everything is to be done through Zoom. We don't want to promote group gatherings. So I just think as a committee, it's something for you to think about.
Well, if John has said that, that kind of ends the discussion, doesn't it?
He has told the staff. So I think as, you know, as a staff member, someone who's paid by the town, I just think it's probably smart for us to continue on with the Zoom meetings and unless things change in a couple of months.
Okay, valid point. I think we're reaching some consensus on that, and the opportunity for Sarah to do a presentation that could be the lead-in to a Zoom with public access seems easier in some respects to pull off after Sarah does her part. We can all agree on that. So now,
can I make 2 suggestions? Is that,
of course, Mia,
we do have the evening Zoom, you know, the one meeting, the big one, we push it, do it during Apple Fest weekend. I would like to try to coordinate with the new senior center director and see if she's having any luck with Zoom meetings. And if she is, I know the Dolmens Club is still meeting regularly. They're meeting in the parking lot at the senior center, but I could maybe piggyback on their meeting and get some senior input, and then maybe reach out to the schools. I know that high school principal, maybe they could set up a Zoom meeting during school hours in September where we could invite the students to attend.
you're suggesting several now? different time?
So the one big, event where we publicize it, but then, and obviously these wouldn't be private. The other two wouldn't be private. There would be an agenda and it would be posted. But I'd like to specifically target through the senior center and through the high school.
Sure. Well, if we're focusing on the Zoom-based public forum, I no longer think it has to be Applefest Day. It's actually probably a bad thing. So it would be a weeknight.
Okay.
And it would be, I think, it'd be like, maybe it's Monday night, or whatever night people feel is best. It's probably as good as any. So now it's just a matter of timing to do that. You would do it as soon as August, or do we do it in early September when less likely to be vacations going on and so on? If the week after Labor Day is sufficient, then I would probably do it that Monday, 14th or whatever that is. Feedback
Yeah,
on that?
that would be my recommendation, just to get out of the vacation season and also to give us the maximum amount of time to advertise it.
How much time is needed to pull the presentation together?
The presentation is pretty much done if what I sent around looks good to this group. So I'll definitely take feedback on that. And once that's final, it'll take me, 15 minutes to record it and get it all set. So that's pretty quick. That can come together really quickly.
Well, my initial feedback is 190 slides is way too many.
Oh, that's the actual document. That's the plan, I think they're looking at.
It would be more focused around your draft forum right here, right?
Mm-hmm. 30.
Yeah, the forum presentation is about 30 slides, but that includes some kind of introduction and also breaks and an activity that we wouldn't be doing if we're doing this via Zoom. So that will be a little bit shorter than the document that I sent around because this is designed for in-person meetings.
Good. I think that'll work. And so I'm going to make a suggestion. We target if Monday as a weeknight is as good as any for people not having conflicts, and Monday the 14th of September, it's after Labor Day and it's before Applefest.
John, I would just make sure there's not a selectmen's meeting on Monday.
There is.
Okay.
Tentatively, because the Conservation Commission got booted to the 21st because of the Board of Selectmen's were on the 14th and 28th. It's not on their official calendar yet, but that we were allowed. Conservation was allowed.
Yeah.
But we could do another night of the week.
Either that or you can do it at 6 instead of 7.
Mm-hmm.
Is the issue just that the town can only host one meeting at a given time? Because CMRPC also has a Zoom account and we could host it. If the issue is just that you don't have the Zoom bandwidth, or if it's that you don't want to conflict with Board of Selectmen, then that's fine. We should pick a different time.
It wouldn't make sense to conflict with them. There are a portion of people that view that on TV. So that's fine. But suggestion, that same week, Tuesday, Wednesday?
What about the last week in August? Is that too early?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Vacation time.
I would just pick a different day that same week of the 14th.
Very good. 15th work? Tuesday?
Yeah.
Or Wednesday? Is any other conflicts that you know of, Mia?
I'm looking at the conference room calendar. I don't have access to all the webinars, but we do have a calendar that tries to put anything that's been scheduled so far, and there's nothing that week. But again, Board of Selectmen is that week and it's not on there.
Is David Kane on?
No, he's gone.
Okay, do we need David there? Because he might be a factor.
Well, David and I were just discussing how it's we have to, the new setup is we confer with you guys, Then we have to email, there's a meetings group, a Zoom
Yeah.
meetings group, and then they have to make sure that it's available. So if we could pick 2 nights that you're all free and that we could commit to, we could give that to the Zoom meetings group and see if one of those are free.
What about that Tuesday or Wednesday?
I think it's a good idea. Do y'all want to check your calendars, see if you're free? Because we'd really like you to attend. September 15th and 16th.
No
guessing-
conflicts here yet, so I'm good.
7
for me.
p.m.
Yeah, good for me too.
Yeah, good for me.
Good for me.
And then Anthony, do you know when planning board, have you scheduled your September meeting yet? We can't hear you. And then Paul, I'm going to ask you the same question about zoning.
Zoning's usually for last Tuesday of the
Okay.
month.
Okay. And Anthony?
Yeah, I'm not sure. It's not in my calendar, so I'd have to double check.
Okay. I'll check their website. But I
Planning
don't
board's
think it's
typically
busy.
Tuesdays, is that right, Anthony?
Yes.
My calendar says there's a combined school committee meeting on that Tuesday, but I'm not sure if that's real or it's just held over from something else.
Kind of makes sense. Well, we'll still hold those 2 nights out if it becomes Wednesday. That should work just as well.
Okay.
Good
So
enough
Tuesday
then?
and Wednesday, September 15th and 16th at 7 p.m. We'll try to schedule a big one.
Very
Okay.
good.
Are we going to have an activity or no?
An activity?
Yeah.
Such
I
as?
am open to suggestions, but I am honestly not sure what we could really do via Zoom other than polls, which seems like it's already been accomplished via the survey. So I would definitely be interested in feedback, but I think having a mapping activity or kind of a post-it note activity is a big benefit to doing an in-person event that gets lost when we Zoom.
Fair enough. I agree. I think I'm impressed with the work so far. I'm impressed with the plan draft, and I think that we're probably doing enough to do this reach out if we promote it ahead of time and all the other ideas we had for that. Just my opinion as chairman.
The one thing that I will throw out there is we've been having to do all of our municipal vulnerability preparedness workshops via Zoom as of late, and we do have an online mapping resource that we've been using. It is not without its glitches, and it's not super functional for people who are not very tech savvy. So if we had a lot of seniors, it might be tough, but that would give people an opportunity to, you know, drop a star on your favorite place to hike or something of that nature. If we wanted to do some sort of smaller breakout room activity, that might be an option. But again, this committee probably knows the type of people that will join this sort of event and whether that might work or whether it would just be a tech nightmare. So if you'd like to explore doing something like that, I could work with our mapping folks to see if we could get a Northborough open space and rec map on an online resource, and we could try to do something of that nature.
Just a question first. I guess I didn't think of it before, but I'm not familiar with YouTube live events as far as community feedback. How does that work, and is it a better forum than Zoom?
I think we would use the Zoom webinar.
Yeah, that I was just going to say that's typically what we've done. I'm also not familiar at all with YouTube.
Okay, and Zoom webinar is just easier to access. You don't log in as a participant like we are per se. I'm not sure the difference.
It's much like this. where we'd see y'all's faces. But then there'd be a lot more participants. You would be promoted to the people here, you members and the Open Space and Rec Plan Update, you would be panelists. And as panelists, we see your face, we see your profile picture. You could share your screen if you'd like to. But the participants, which you're labeled as right now, are in, we pretty much give them permission to talk and then put them back. So they're in kind of a listen only until they're given permission to talk.
Good enough.
Yeah, or if we didn't want to go through the headache of muting and unmuting people, we also have the opportunity of having people type a question into the chat box. And then we can designate one person to read the question, and then whoever is the most appropriate would answer it. That's another way that we've done things. So there are definitely options, but I do think these webinar probably makes the most sense.
Hey, John, I'm going to drop, unfortunately, so I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Greg.
Peter, I'll
Thanks,
catch
Greg.
you tomorrow.
Okay.
Thank you. Stay well, folks.
So we've kind of skipped it to the end of the agenda, if you will, but I think we've got a plan for the quote unquote public forum. We'll wait on the applicability of the 15th or 16th September. And the activity, the format will be Sarah's presentation, followed by public comment, and we're panelists with the guests chiming in. Any feedback on that? Everybody in agreement that can work?
Yes, I think that sounds like a good idea.
I agree.
Very good.
I agree too. I think it's a good idea.
Sounds good to me.
Yeah, I agree too.
I agree too.
Okay, good. Yeah, we take how to play the uncertainties with outside stuff anyway, so I like it. So we had, we had planned on putting up objectives to the goals. It may be quick to throw some ideas out. It's 8 o'clock. Members willing to dig in, say, for another 20 to 30 minutes? How do people feel?
I have to sign off by 8:15, but I'm willing to stay.
Great. Take advantage of your 10 minutes, 5 minutes.
So John, are we waiting for the feedback before we start discussing objectives, or?
Well, something I guess I'd bounce off Sarah. It seems to me that feedback would most likely be toward specific actions. Wouldn't you think that citizens are going to say, like you see in the survey, when are we going to build more walking paths?
Mhm.
I don't know. I mean, they're not looking at it from the perspective that we are creating the outlines of a plan. They're probably going to give us the most input with regard to the action steps. Please comment.
Yeah, so sometimes that's definitely the case. Sometimes it's the opposite, where you get sort of a vague idea that really informs the goals more than anything, and it comes down to the committee to drill down to that action plan. So it definitely depends on the group that you get. Whatever we end up doing, whether it's coming up with the objectives or waiting to get some more public input, we will probably end up changing some of these depending on what that input is. So I think we can go either way. But I think that this committee should also be open to adjusting if what we hear at the forum is really different than these 6 goals that we've laid out.
I think you're gonna hear a lot of the stuff that's going on currently. The people that are gonna come in and voice their opinions are the ones that are wanting change somewhere in town. So you're gonna hear from the dog park people. You're gonna hear from the people who want better sidewalks and more, bikeability, things like that. I think those are gonna come up as the most important, and that's what you're gonna hear, because those are the major issues that are going on in town right now.
Yeah, that's a good point. And if we know that those are the big issues that are going on, it might not be a bad idea to maybe come up with a couple of draft objectives or even draft action items that this committee feels are realistic to get to some of those issues, so that those folks show up and already feel like their concerns are being heard, and then maybe they're more willing to talk about something else. I'm not sure what this committee thinks of that, but that might be something that we could consider to get ahead of anything that we think might really dominate the conversation.
Well, I have a question about the overall plan. I mean, is this kind of like our fantasy wish and dreams, or is this something that we're going to look at kind of like the master plan and say, this was the top 2 things that everybody wanted. We have to figure out a way to do it. Because I'm looking at things of, do we have property? Do we have money to build these things? So I don't know if we want to steer conversations or if we really want to hear what everybody wants. I'm just not sure what the overall, I guess, outcome of it is. Is it just what we want or what is plausible to happen?
Ally, I think it's very much to be an actionable plan, not a dream.
That's what I was thinking.
That's what, that's the goal of the master plan as well. And aligning it with the master plan, in some ways used our previous open space plan.
Okay.
Those are all things we need to take into consideration. Now, if you get 5 or 6 specific citizen feedback items on one of the goals, such as expand open space recreational opportunities, and if dog park is one of those, and you just, I think our goal there is digesting all that citizen feedback, and if a high percentage steer towards one, then that's the town really wants that to be part of the action plan.
Right.
I'm assuming that's what we're trying to do, is drive our thoughts so that the actions are not just the opinion of us 8 to 10 committee members.
Right. I think that's where my concern lies, is because I'm the person, as far as the recreation portion, that makes this stuff happen. So if everybody comes and tells me they want 7 pickleball courts and a dog park, that's wonderful. I'd love to have it, but where are we going to put it and where are we going to get the money for it? So I'm looking at it in terms of the background. I'm the person that has to make this stuff happen. And I think that's my concern, is that we're going to come up with these fantastic ideas, but I don't know how, as the recreation person, someone right now who isn't running any programs or bringing in any money, you know what I mean? How are we going to make something like that happen?
Well, just to comment quickly on the funds, one of your resources for recreational activities and upgrades, or maybe the key one, has been the Community Preservation Act. So,
absolutely,
I don't, continuing to make good use of that resource is that an action or an objective? It's, so if you're trying to defend something in the plan that says we were going to work hard on one specific item, your response could be, that is a goal and it's an action in the plan, and Ally's participation in that might be to continue to promote it or bring it up to the CPC as something you'd like to get funds for. Right. Doesn't mean you're going to make it happen next year, but that you've done your job to promote it. I think that's the best that you can do.
No, okay, that's perfect. I think my whole thing is that the public looks at me for things to happen right away. You know what I mean? If they want a program to happen, I can generally make it happen pretty quickly. But you're talking about some major projects that the town is looking to do. And I think it just makes me nervous because I think their expectations for things to happen might not align with the money or the time, you know what I mean, that we actually have to spend.
Well, some of these things are going to require, capital planning, and that includes CPA available money. So that's different than you're being able to expand and add a program that's within your budget.
Okay.
I think
Well,
that's kind of
Sarah,
where you draw the line.
as part of Sarah, as part of your presentation, would you kind of explain that? Set the expectation that this is a plan that is, 7 years, and these are items that we would like to accomplish over a 7-year period if we are able to get funding. Is that can that be explained in the presentation, kind of how that works?
Yeah, so that is part of the presentation. So there is a couple of introduction slides that explain what an open space and rec plan is and why Northborough needs one. So I can definitely stress, that these are various action items that have different capital costs and different timelines, and that, not everything that's in this plan is going to happen right away, that it is a 7-year action plan. So I can definitely make sure that is very clear in the presentation. And also, I know that you all definitely haven't scrolled through the entire draft, but when you get to the section about the 7-year action plan, there are sort of a number of matrices that break out each goal and objective and the actionable items under each objective. And there are little sliding bars for cost and for priority. And we could even add one for timeline if that would ease some of your stress, Allie, so that it's really, really clear which of these items are short-term and which are long-term. So we can really structure that in the plan, however this committee is comfortable with it.
Great. I do want to point out too that, a lot of the state grants look to open space and rec plan goals in terms of deciding whether they're going to give the town funding or not. So if it is something that we need funding for, it is good to keep it in here because they're going to look to that.
Absolutely.
Good point, Ally, to clarify not only how we're preparing the plan, but what the expectations are of it, people's view of it. And you're right, people want things immediately.
And I want to support them. All these things that we've gone through to do this, I support every single one of them. I think they're all fabulous for the town. But you have people who feel very strongly about certain ones. And I think that this is a good forum for them to come through and express that so that we as a committee have an idea of what the community thinks is the most important.
You have a very good track record, so I don't think you should be worried.
I love this community.
Well, okay. Anyone else have something specific to a goal they want to comment on, or I guess I'm open to how we move down our agenda, or if we decide to wait for more community input. Feel free to speak, anyone.
Sorry, just to clarify, John, we're waiting to talk about action items under each of these goals.
Well, we
That's
need
what you-
objectives before action items.
Got it.
And I don't have the
Right.
previous open space plan open in front of me, but that would be where I'd go to start driving it. We used that and added to the goals last time. It's very easy to get mired down and forget the format of the outline, and that's kind of where I'm at in my head.
Is it something that we can do? Is it like a good homework assignment for us all?
It definitely is.
Okay.
Yeah, so would it be useful if I sent around the goals and the objectives from the last plan as a starting point, and then maybe this committee could highlight the ones that they think are still really important, or update the ones that they think are close but maybe need a little bit of tweaking?
Mhm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Great.
I think that doing that probably gives everybody a chance to do it offline. And then I guess I would ask people, comment specifically, keep this objective, edit this objective, or add an objective. And, throw them out there. You don't necessarily have to comment on all 6 goals, but if you have strong thoughts on one of them, then you throw that out. And maybe we make a goal of doing that in the next coming 4 weeks, let's say. That way, by the end of August, Sarah has good structure and can update the outline, and we're in a good spot to go into the forum. Does that sound like a good timeline?
Should we meet in August? Try to make up for some lost time.
Up to the members.
I think I would rather provide feedback on the goals offline, and whether sending it just to John or sending it to everybody as a way to make this more efficient.
Is there a way to put a working document? It's easy for us all to access.
Google Drive.
I'm just a little, I want to back up just a minute to clarify. So during our last meeting, we did look at the previous goals and drafted these goals based off that. So are we moving on to objectives, or are we going back to goals?
I think we're moving on to objectives.
Okay, so we're going to look at the previous plan's objectives and comment on that. Because it was said at the last meeting that these goals were not finalized. And we sort of got to a point where we ran out of time, and we conceded that we would revisit these goals. So I'm not sure how much revisiting you want to do, or if people feel comfortable with them. I mean, they're in draft form, they're not final.
You got a better memory, and you've probably read the minutes, which I didn't do as well. So let's do that to wrap up tonight's meeting. If we refer quickly to the goals, does anyone believe we've got too many? Number one, I think we added 2 or 1 goal, if I'm not mistaken. I thought we had pretty good consensus around the wording of them. We might have said, people sleep on it, but we've all been sleeping for 5 months, so that's hard.
As someone who's just coming in now, I didn't see any of this stuff. I haven't been at the other meetings. I think they look good and they're comprehensive. And those 2 items at the bottom look more like objectives or action items than anything that I would add to the goals. The goals are good.
I'm actually really impressed with the goals. I think that as a committee, we did a really good job being precise with them. And I think that the 6 of them are equally as important.
Ashley's right. Those 2 paragraphs that start with the word possible, aren't those really actions? Maybe Sarah could concur or not. Isn't that what an action is?
Yeah, so I think that's a really great point, Ashley. I think that goal 5 and goal 6 that we had drafted last time, I think that those might fall more under the objective umbrella. And then there might be more specific, like how would we expand connections between specific open spaces that would be the action items. But I think if we wanted to move those 2 goals under, if they fit under some of these first 4, we could absolutely do that and make them objectives.
John,
I mean,
I don't think Sarah can see those 2 add-ons because she's only on voice. So I don't think she saw 2 that are below.
I only have 1 on my printout. I I thought Mia was typing in the last,
Yes, Sarah, there were two sort of separate paragraphs below goal 6.
That we just added.
Oh,
But I see what you're saying.
they're like notes.
Yeah, they're more like notes.
Yeah, she can't see them.
I'll
Yeah.
email them now.
Is there any, just quickly, I'm sorry to jump around, but something sparked in my memory from 5 months ago. Didn't we agree that goal 6 to specifically address accessibility, that we wanted that to be an independent goal?
Yes.
Mhm. We pulled it
Because
out of
we're
another
able
goal.
to actually, we're in the process of fixing that, so that goal would be attainable.
Right.
So I
And-
think we want to keep that as a goal.
I thought we had a discussion around that, and that's where it came from. Now, 5 looks like it should be an objective under 2 or 3.
Yeah, 5 does seem like it could be under something else. Yeah.
Now that you mention it.
Yeah, I would agree. So we should keep 6, and I would probably say for goal 5, make it an objective under 3.
yeah, I think that makes sense. And also
I like that.
helps this a little bit for the planning process, because for every goal, we need to come up with objectives and action items. So that also takes a whole bunch of objectives and action items that we might need to come up with off the table, just by consolidating these a little bit.
Mhm.
Perfect. All right.
You might be able to even take goal number 4 and combine it with goal number 2. So improve and expand opportunities for active recreation to residents of all ages. You could say improve and expand the community awareness and opportunities. If you're looking to, lower the number of goals, you might be able to actually put those two together.
It looked like we were separating active recreation from conservation
Okay.
Mhm.
at the
Yeah,
time.
no, yeah.
And then I'm jumping again. I'm back to what is now going to be, at this point anyway, is goal 5. I remember us talking about the words, the language. And I may be tone deaf, but I'm not sure everyone immediately understands what that is. And it says improve accessibility to parks, open space, and recreational facilities, where those last words are what the whole plan is about. So is there any benefit in the title saying, putting the part of the first sentence in the title? You have access is imperative to highest and best use. It's
What do you
the
mean the
part
title?
about it's the part about people of all ages and abilities that brings you back to what accessibility means. I'm really struggling for what the right way to make that jump out is. Does anyone
I
care?
would
to
just
extent
say
that
make access or make, it's all changing.
What do you
Make
think?
passive and active recreation sites available to people of all ages and abilities. Is that what you're saying, John? Or are you saying what Mia's just doing right now?
I'm saying that accessibility as a word on its own
Mm.
That means.
doesn't
what-
make it jump out to me as an independent goal. And I know we debated this the last time, so I'm sorry I'm retreading.
I'm confused what you're looking for too, John.
I know, I'm
I don't
confusing
think we
myself.
need to add too much over the goal text, because there will be this descriptive narrative, and also hopefully the objectives and the action items will make it really clear what the intent of that goal is as well.
That's a good point. So Control Z are my favorite keys. You can go back, Mia.
Well, John, are you trying to say that you wanted to say less in the bold point, like just say improve accessibility to parks? You know what
No, I
I
was
mean?
actually trying to say, I wanted it to say more, or I wanted it to be more clear.
Okay.
And now I think it's fine, so I'm gonna go away.
I just don't like that highest and best use thing. Sounds like we're doing an appraisal.
Yeah, you're right. So I think I'll take Sarah's advice and wait till we have enough time to add objectives. I mean, what's an objective? Reviewing the current status of town parks. We're already doing it somewhat by force. That's a good thing, right? And then action is spending on specific revisions, which we're doing too, or going to do. Doesn't mean we can't put it in the plan.
Right.
Going to be another park that's going to come up, right? I don't know if you already know which one it is, but probably won't be the last time we hear of that need, which is fine.
Right.
I'd like to move this possible future objective to goal 4, community awareness.
Yeah, I mean, it's clearly an action, is it not, Mia?
Oh, it could be. I think the actions would.
I guess keeping
be
up to date
more-
information is general enough. I see what you mean.
I think both of those would go under 4, right?
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so.
Very well. Good job.
Thanks.
Well, what do you know? We added some objectives.
John, I'm sorry, I do have to check out. So I will make sure I'm available on the 14th or the 15th and any meetings we have ahead of time.
Thanks for giving us your time.
Oh, no problem. I'm really excited with this moving forward. So I'm glad that we were able to Zoom and move forward with this project.
Yeah, we're putting some real meat into it. I like it too.
Good. All right, guys, good luck. Have a good night.
Bye.
Thanks, Sally.
I would suggest we've achieved a little bit, and I'm happy with that. We don't need to spend any more time on objectives unless someone has a real cogent idea. Comments, anyone?
Format.
We can talk out loud about any other open business. Mia had carried over 615 Howard Street.
Sorry, before we move on, if I could just pop in with one
Oh, I'm
last
sorry,
thing on
Sarah,
the.
forgive me.
So I just wanted to flag, I think we talked about this last time, but the Open Space Committee is responsible for doing the ADA self-assessment. So very much in line with that 5th goal for the Parks and Rec facilities. So that's definitely something that you all might want to be thinking about because it will require kind of going out to those facilities and going through the checklist and seeing what's there and what's not, and then getting that ADA plan in place. So I think I had sent the checklist, the evaluation form to Mia. I'm not sure if the rest of you have that, but I could send that around and answer any questions about that. But it really is just kind of going out with a clipboard and a checklist and writing down what you see. So it would just be this committee breaking up the various parks and open space and rec properties that you have in the town and doing that assessment. And then that will be one of the appendices to the plan.
So Sarah, to clarify, that's a physical activity that we somehow need to pull off? And actually,
Yeah, a solo, socially distanced physical activity, hopefully. And if that's something that I don't, are the parks open in town right now or are they closed?
They're open.
Okay. So if that's something that this group is really uncomfortable with, I can reach out to DCR and see if there are any allowances, but do not think that they've seemed very flexible with other plans that we've had in front of them during this time, unfortunately. So definitely reach out, let me know if you think that getting this done in the current situation might be a challenge. But it is something that we will be required to submit with your plan.
If we make it another homework, then I had forgotten it was part of our responsibility, but I don't see why, if I kept this in the back of my head and put the list in the car, and from time to time I stopped and looked at a park that we couldn't get feedback from enough of the committee to satisfy the requirement.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, I can send around the examples of what kind of what a completed one looks like from the past plan, and just get that blank checklist out to everyone.
Great.
yeah, we should get a list of what we need to do and divide it up.
Can't get it. Can you see it? I'm trying to share it.
I can see we can see part of the checklist, but I'm talking, we should get a list of the facilities we need to visit and divide them up.
Good idea.
So do we have to visit every trail too? Probably, right? Because the parks are easy.
I don't know.
Do we have an obligation for ADA accessibility for the trails now?
I
No,
don't know.
you just have to do an assessment.
Yeah, that's what I mean, right?
Okay, I'll make a list and send it out. We can divide it up.
Thank you, Mia.
No problem.
All right, I think that's the last thing that I have. So unless there's any other open space and rec plan discussion items, I will probably drop off.
Sarah, did you hear that question though? We do have to do the ADA assessment of even the conservation properties, like the trails areas.
Let me take a look at what we submitted with your last plan, and we can use that as a jumping off point for the facilities that you need to take a look at.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
And are we going to be doing homework on the objectives or no?
Yes.
Okay.
And I suppose it's sufficient for emailing. I mean, if you want to, maybe Mia, can you produce a revision of what you're making now? You got a version as of tonight. I guess if you wrote us an email specific to that, we can comment on that document, and you can wait a while and get a few weeks worth of feedback before you.
So I'll add the objectives from the previous plan and email it out.
Yeah, right.
Okay, will do.
To stimulate our thinking. So
Yeah, and I can volunteer to be the keeper of those comments if that would be useful, just so there's no violation of open meeting law. Which
Right.
I'm not sure if you have to comply with open meeting laws, the open space committee, but I do have concerns about a working document from an OML perspective.
Yep. Yep. So we'll request feedback within 4 weeks be sent to Sarah.
Great. So we have that for action. We just talked about the ADA assessment for action.
Mhm.
And we have September 15th or 16th possibilities for our open forum Zoom.
Yes.
And as soon as we have a date locked in, we can pull together some advertising materials for that. So as soon as you have that information, Mia, and we've confirmed a date with this group, I can make up some flyers and some posts and draft a press release to get the word out.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions for Sarah? You're doing a great job, Sarah. We really appreciate it.
Thank you. I missed actually being in Northborough for these meetings. So I'm glad we were able to connect tonight, but
Miss you too.
all right. Thanks everyone. Have a good night.
You too.
Thanks, Sarah. You too. And I think, John, it's Mark, and I apologize everybody for being late tonight. And I'm sorry I couldn't get on video, but if you guys are going to jump to your regular agenda now, I think I'm gonna jump off too, and I'll look over the documents as well and free up my calendar for those days in September.
Thanks, Mark.
Thanks, everybody. Good to see you all.
Do we have anything else really that needs to be talked about other than, I know you asked already, Mia, about meeting again. You've got August 31 as the, Monday? Yes.
I
Do
think
members
that's
want to?
the 5th Monday, so you could do the 24th or the 31st.
If I would be away that week, so if we want to try the 31st, what do members think? Be honest, if we are trying to give feedback to the objectives and the ADA, I guess it probably makes sense to try to have a meeting. We could keep it brief, but to prep us for what we're going to do in this forum. So why don't we post it, Mia, for the 31st?
Okay. So the agenda would be the objectives, the forum, and the ADA assessment progress.
Yes.
Did you want me to move 615 Howard Street to that meeting, or do you want to talk about it tonight?
If you have a presentation, go for it. Let's get it over with. I don't have any questions myself. Others might.
It's been dragging on. I wanted to let everyone know that I don't work at Sudbury Valley Trustees anymore.
Oh.
So I'm not, I don't have any, I don't have to abstain from this conversation.
Okay. This is good.
I now work at the Department of Ag Resources, the state.
Congratulations. I hope that's good for you.
Yes, it is exciting. Now I get to protect land on all of Eastern Massachusetts rather than just one region.
Nice.
Yeah.
Are you anywhere near Dan's office?
I don't think so. I mean, I'm in my home, but Boston one day a week, and then there's the new headquarters for the Department of Ag is actually in Southborough. I'm not sure where Dan is. I think he's in Worcester area.
That's convenient for you. That sounds great.
Yeah.
Do you, Ashley, do you know Caroline Raisler?
Yes, right. Yeah, we poached her, right?
Yes, yeah. She's one of my staff. Yeah.
Yeah, she's great. She's really great.
Is there any problem with Howard Street?
No, we had only received one cost estimate, and that was from SVT. Every other game in town was not interested. We contacted New England Forestry Foundation, Division of Fish and Wildlife, Trustees of Reservations, who else? Greater Worcester Land Trust, and pretty much all the, Fish and Wildlife said they're full up. They can barely manage what they have. They're not interested in anymore. New England Forestry said they're not interested unless it's going to be actively forested, which I did reply that the Conservation Commission is interested in moving forward with forestry management on all of Pisgah, but they still weren't interested. And Greater Worcester Land Trust and the Trustees Reservation said that this was more Sudbury Valley's area.
I will say that so SVT holds the CR on the Oberg property, which is just north over the line. So I think if they held it, they would make it very similar to that CR if the town was amenable to that and kind of monitor them all at once. But the last time I talked to them before I left, Krista did say, the number is not hard and fast that was given. It was the budget that we came up with, but they would only give you, they would only charge the amount that ended up coming out to be the actual amount, which could be lower. depending on survey costs and stuff. So,
So far, the budgeted estimated cost is 17,000.
Yearly, or,
no, one time.
One time.
and I presume we'd fund it from the conservation fund?
Yes. With your
Is that-
recommendation to the Conservation Commission.
Okay, so that's what I wanted to know. Therefore, it would be proper to vote on it so that the Concom has that in their information, yes?
We can put it on the August 12th agenda.
So again, it's the 615 Howard Street, it's all the backland from that, I forget how many acres?
19?
17?
19? Something.
Yeah, 19 maybe. Let
Yeah.
me see, I just counted
Transaction
up.
already happened, so this is just to hold the CR, 17,000 for SVT. I would entertain a motion.
I move to approve.
Second,
I
I
second.
second that. Nope, Dan had it.
Ashley motion, Dan seconded, close enough.
Close enough. Yeah.
And any discussion?
Yeah,
Otherwise, go ahead.
forgive my ignorance. So if SVT, if we're voting to approve that SVT will hold the CR, is that correct?
Yes,
And once again, forgive my ignorance. What say do we have, as an open space committee, have in how SVT writes up the rules and restrictions on the property?
You would, the SVT and the town, presumably through the committee, would work together on the language. So what would, I mean, the EEA, the Executive Office of Energy and Environmental Affairs is the final arbiter, but within their parameters, it's between SVT and the town together to work out the details. I would think that one like this, it would stick pretty closely with the state template. There's not really anything crazy going on, nothing unique.
So I think I won't be putting it on the August 12th conservation agenda. I think the next move would be, we would contact SVT, let them know we plan to move forward with them by this vote. We have to take a roll call before we move forward. But then they would send me a draft and we'd ask them to base it on the Oberg property or the Maitreya. We have SVT holds another CR, the Maitreya property. And because we want the same protections. And then we'd review it at the August 31st meeting. And after that, we would move forward to the Conservation Commission. I could send them a draft as well for their input. Does that sound like a good plan?
yes.
Okay, so we still need a roll call on that vote.
Any other questions first before we roll call? So this vote is for our blessing to SVT's proposal, where we're not carte blanching the language. We're going to get a draft, right?
Yes.
Okay, roll call. Brian,
I approve.
Anthony,
Aye.
Paul,
Aye.
Ashley,
Aye.
Dan,
Aye.
and John. I'm in favor too.
I'll let them know and I'll try to get a draft CR for the next meeting.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are we allowed to look at that CR outside of the meeting? Because I just want to do some homework, having not thoroughly ever read one.
Sure.
And there's the template should be available on the state website, but the state website's hard to do some Googling. But
I would have to admit I wouldn't even know where to start looking for that. Other than
Yeah,
punching
right.
into Google. So
you could just do like Massachusetts model CR or something. You'd probably find it, but
Do you want me to send you the Maitreya CR?
anything relevant that we think that SVT is going to base it on, I would love to read up on it.
And it's pretty
What about
recent. It's
the,
only 3 years old.
What about the Green Street Chunder property CR, a little more?
Oh, true, yeah. That one's more in depth. That might be more meat than you want to chew on.
Right. Sounds like he wants to chew, so.
Sure.
Okay, I'll send both. Maitreya and Shunder.
There's more to that one with the stream and so on.
Right. Yeah.
Wetlands.
Okay.
We're done with that. Is there something to say about Zero Green Street?
Nothing. There's been no movement forward. In fact, I'm blanking as to where we left it. Maybe I can look at the minutes.
It's landlocked, right? There's no.
It is, but
access.
there's steps in the process. I think we were supposed to ask him to send us a letter. I'm trying to remember if we received the letter or not. Let me see. Let me check the minutes. A letter has been received from Mr. Silver's lawyer. Town is awaiting the results of a title search from town council. Okay, so I have to check. We did get the title search and it was crazy. Did I forward that to you? There are a lot because that land was cut up in so many ways. Now it's all coming back. So that parcel was part of a whole bunch of different subdivisions up there in the Whipsonaki. A lot of that land was part of the Whipsonaki hunting area, and it was carved into different. And so that parcel has something on one of the deeds where it is responsible for one of the common driveways. So we asked Mr. Silver to get it. I don't know if we officially asked him or we just discussed, Kathy and I, that needs to be removed. Otherwise, if the town takes it, then the town will then become responsible as partial owner of a driveway and the maintenance of that driveway.
Mm-hmm.
So I will follow up on that because your last vote was to accept it pending the results of the title search. So I'll see if we can just get a clear title and move it to the Conservation Commission.
Thank you.
I'm sorry I didn't have it for this meeting. I completely dropped it off my to-do list.
It sounds like maybe we just need you to summarize it.
Yeah.
Like you did. A lot of tentacles there.
Oh, yeah.
I have one brief item of business that certainly concerns us, but has any conclusions been drawn around the tree cutting on Pisgah? Is it continuing, and what's been happening?
Were you able to attend that last meeting with the Conservation Commission? They had a meeting with the chief of police, Liz Newland. She is like the CR manager because there's that big fish and wildlife piece in the middle there. And so we have a bunch of action items from that meeting. I was on vacation last week. And so the chief and I are going to meet the commission. The most exciting news is the commission voted to issue an award of $500 for information leading to the arrest of the vandals. So the police chief is going to work with me as how this doesn't become a poop show. And we have people like no camping, no getting physical. He's going to help me with like the legal writing. We're going to get a big poster made at a place and like a laminated, hanging poster that's going to get ripped down, but it doesn't matter because I'm going to take pictures of it and post it all over social media. Brian will help me with that. Brian's very good about sending out messages on the trails committee. It's called the Northborough Trail Travelers. If you're not a member of that Facebook group, that's a big way we get information out about the trails in town. And it's not a town run Facebook group. It's run by the trails committee, Brian and Bob. And so that was one of the action items. And I'm going to be going back to the commission on August with cost estimates of trail cameras. The chief is going to help me come up with designated locations, and we got permission from Fish and Wildlife to hang trail cameras on their property. And trail cameras, there's the actual cost of buying the camera, and then there's the cost of they have to be linked to a Verizon phone number to be. So the town has those. The chief's going to help me figure out how many we need and come back with a cost estimate. And I'm going to be coming back to the meeting, working with the chief again on the purchase. This is just cost estimates for the commission to review for an ATV, because they really, the chief feels strongly, and I support this belief very strongly, that increased patrols will cut down on vandalism. And it's impossible. Right now we have one of the commissioners, Todd Helwig. He's up on the Howard Street side. He's patrolling up there. We have Tom Beals patrolling over on the Green Street side, and I'm covering Smith Road, and the Berlin Concom is covering the Oberg Overlook, and we're still not reaching people. The cutting is continuing. Even, I go up weekly, and there's just constant rock movement, and, people, there's one person created like a pool up there where the water is pooling and it has mosquito larvae, and I'm going to take a crowbar to it. I tried to get to it before my vacation. I told the Conservation Commission, I go up there with gloves and work clothes, and I kick these boulders, like big boulders I can't carry. I kick them downhill, and people come back I usually try to go twice a week. They come back and they carry these boulders uphill. Like the amount of energy they have, it's almost like
Where is
dancing.
Where is it centered?
My rock issues are the Loop Trail and Sparrow, and then one of the spur trails that connects the Loop to Sparrow, which, I'm going to map. That's the other thing we're doing, is we're going to try to create a full inventory of all the trails up there. We're trying to access some trail data. There's some gentleman we met on the trails, that Brian and I met on the trails, he's a contributor. He's a mountain biker, and he contributes his data. So he might be able to get us some of that data. He has not responded to me, Brian. If you could poke him. So I message people on Facebook, but the only thing I'm allowed to message is, please email me at my town email address. I don't have any correspondence with people. I just say, hello, I'm trying to reach you. Please email me at my town email address. And I did do that. And he kind of gave me a thumbs up, but I haven't heard from him.
Okay. I know he was traveling, but I'll reach out to him and give him more explicit instructions to get
I want his heat. He's got heat data, so we can see what all the trails on GPS and what's being used most. And then the commission is going to start looking at that inventory to figure out what trails are used, what are safe, what leads to private property, what needs to be closed. And we're going to start prioritizing, accurately mapping, and possibly closing down.
And you don't think it's mountain bikers, do you? It's
everybody.
Well,
hunters, mountain bikers, kids, annoying people, people who got a chainsaw for Christmas. It's everybody.
I'm just wondering. Anyway, I won't say it.
No, say it. Unless it can't be public record.
There's bad eggs.
There's just certain people who may have not wanted their property to be conserved that got conserved. And I wonder if maybe there's a guilty party there, but I don't know.
We can't catch them.
Not their property, but property that they wanted to be theirs. Anyway, interesting.
Right. But semi-related, and I mentioned this at the conservation meeting, there's clearly some trail work that's being done illicitly by mountain bikers. I think some of it is pure ignorance. They don't know that they can't do some of the work that's out there. But like Mia, specifically, like the folks that are spending the time making the beautiful rock bridges are not the people cutting the trees down. So there's just multiple different people touching things up there.
Mm-hmm.
And as I mentioned at the concert, I was a guest panelist at conservation. The people doing the damage are an incredibly small percentage of the mountain bike user group. Mm. And I've been working with the Mountain Bike Association to raise awareness. And Mia, we could probably, if we need funding for cameras, I'm fairly confident I can extract money out of NEMBA if we want some. So
good.
Brian Forstall, who's the president of Blackstone Valley NEMBA, went out to Pisgah this past weekend to go check out things up there because it's not an area that he was particularly familiar with. So
I'm scared to go back. It's been over a week.
Yeah.
sometimes if you're behind me, Brian walked with me once and I'm like, why? You know,
Oh, what a crazy place. I know there's a spot in Berlin where there's like always like a suitcase and a tent. Like every so often it's there again and it goes. Somebody just squats.
that's
It's
great.
weird. Yeah.
Berlin was very reactive to and responsive. So we did, I don't know if you heard, we did have one observation. A friend of mine called me on my personal cell. She was hiking on Pisgah and she's like, I am looking at mountain bikers cutting. I am yelling at them and and I could hear them yell back at her saying, we have to cut these little white pines. We can't see when we come up. They were coming off the Oberg Overlook. Could you imagine throwing yourself off that overlook? But they were doing that and they were cutting all the little white pines below and she was yelling at them. And I was like, just get away. Just get away. And we called the police and she filed a report with the police and they were never caught. And then the Berlin Concom went out like the next day and just restored. They found two spots and they just completely, you can't even tell. You can tell there was some kind of disruption, but you can't tell if it's like storm damage or something. So they covered it up real quick.
Oh, the gall.
And the police didn't get there in time. They visited both entrances, but didn't catch anyone.
Yeah.
And it's really just bad eggs. I think 99.9% of the mountain bikers are very good stewards.
As with anything.
Mhm.
It's unfortunate.
Crazy. I didn't mean to open a can of worms, but it was very
Sorry.
informative. Thank you.
And well, one more thing before you go. This Saturday, August 1st, we are having a cleanup day on Edmund Hill to try to restore some of the damage done by the disc golf vandalism. Not the project managers. They did not. It's Kelly and Scott. They're very nice people, or Kelly and Steve. They did not do this. This is the vandals associated with the disc golf volunteers created some fairways. And we had a group of teenagers volunteer. At the same time, we're going to try to rake in that trail diversion. If you've probably noticed, there's a lot of buzz about the private property signs that have gone up and now the summit is cut off. So we're going to try to divert the trail to get access around to the other side of the hill again.
Great. I do have one quick update too. Before I left SVT, the owner of Crawford Street, I forget what the address was, but the manager of the estate, that property on Crawford Street where they didn't want trails, they had offered it up to the town. SVT is going to accept it with an access easement. I think the board is gonna, well, I don't know if they're gonna accept it yet, but probably they're voting in August. And I think what they're going to try to do is have allowance to hold events, like hold guided trail walks. So that
really?
property will be protected. And then, there's nothing in the will that stated that you couldn't allow public on the property. It was just sort of her wishes that it remain private. So the idea was no trails, but, maybe some way to kind of allow people to see it there. So it will be protected. Sudbury Valley trustees will hold it, and
Very nice.
Forget it was 297 Crawford, and they're carving off 15 acres right on the frontage on Crawford, but the access will be from Crawford. So
that's great.
Yeah, I think it's still like 20 acres that'll be conserved, 24 or something. That's it.
Thank you, Ashley.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else anyone has? Otherwise, I suggest we adjourn.
Just this Saturday, August 1st, 8 a.m. at the Senior Center. Be there. Be square.
Thanks everyone for making time tonight on a hot evening. Productive meeting. I appreciate it.
We've got some homework.
Yeah. We have to vote to adjourn, or can we just X you out?
Let's vote to adjourn just in case. I think we do this every meeting.
Yeah, I know. Well, very well. In this case, we are concluding the July 27th meeting of the Open Space Committee in Northborough. I ask for a vote to adjourn.
Second.
Who was the initial vote? The motion?
It was my suggestion. There was no motion. Need a motion to adjourn?
I move to adjourn the meeting.
Brian moved. Dan seconded. We need to say, Brian, are you going to adjourn?
I'm ready to adjourn. Yes.
Dan, are you ready to adjourn?
Ready to adjourn, yep.
Ashley,
Yes, ready.
Paul,
Yes, ready.
Anthony.
Uh,
I think that was a yes. And me too. And thank you, Mia. Did I miss
Thank you.
anybody?
1, 2, 3, 4.
Thanks again, people.
Thanks.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
See you on
John.
the,
Bye,
see
everybody.
you on the sharings and see you on the 31st.
All right.
So, yeah.
Thanks, Mia. Thanks,
Good
Thank
night.
you.
Thanks, Mia. Thanks, Mia.
Dan Clark. Okay. So end the live stream by clicking on. Oops. Let's see. Stop share. More.